The Solomon Islands government has warned foreign journalists they could be blocked from entering the country. It's another sign that freedom of the press may be under threat in the Pacific Island nation. Foreign Affairs reporter Stephen Jedgetts has the details.
At the heart of this seems to be continuing anger in Solomon Islands over coverage of that country's relationship with China. In particular, a report that the ABC's Four Corners program put out at the beginning of this month, which really focused on the burgeoning relationship between Manasseh Sogavare's government and China, in particular Chinese state-owned companies operating in the country. Now, the Office of the Prime Minister has issued a series of statements berating the ABC and Four Corners over the last few days, accusing the ABC of disinformation and of racial profiling, saying that the ABC's focus on China seems to imply that it only wants the country to have a relationship with, quote, white countries. Now, what's happened is that the Prime Minister, at the end of this statement, or at the end of this statement from his office, has now gone a step further, saying that journalists who come from other countries and who are, quote, demeaning or who engage in, quote, racial profiling will not be allowed into the country. Now, we don't have many details yet, but that seems to be the Prime Minister flagging new restrictions on foreign members of the press coming into the country, which is a worrying development for advocates for media freedom in the country.
So do we have any idea about what sort of restrictions might be imposed?
No, it's all very nebulous at the moment, Ros. We've really only got this one line at the end of a very lengthy press release which goes through the apparent sins of the ABC and Four Corners. Now, it is worth noting the ABC has also rejected the accusations, in particular the accusation of racism, saying that the program actually focused on critics inside Solomon Islands, Solomon Islanders, rather than foreign experts who are uncomfortable about the closeness between Solomon Islands and China. It also stands by the accuracy of its reporting in that Four Corners program. Nonetheless, the Prime Minister seems incensed by the program, and he seems to be flagging a new approach with foreign journalists. But exactly how it will work, whether there'll be a new visa, whether there'll be a blacklist, whether there'll be restrictions, exactly how it's going to work remains unclear.
But what does this say about the broader direction of Solomon Islands under Mr. Sogavare?
Well, we've already seen quite a few movements towards eroding or restricting freedom of the press in Solomon Islands. This doesn't come in isolation. We've seen, for example, Mr. Sogavare internally flag the idea of a government-owned newspaper. Now, that would potentially deprive crucial revenue or deprive private media outlets in Solomon Islands of crucial revenue, because the government is a key source of money through its government advertising in those papers. We've also seen what looks to be a move to try and erode the independence of the Solomon Islands Broadcasting Corporation, their national broadcaster, stripping it of its position or of its role as a state-owned entity, although the government insists it won't meddle in any of the editorial content. And on top of that, we've seen really persistent and growing attacks on journalists within Solomon Islands. Verbal attacks, I hesitate to clarify, not physical attacks, but verbal attacks from the Prime Minister, accusing journalists in the country of trying to spill or grow disinformation and of splintering the country along different ethnic and religious lines. So it's a very volatile situation. Exactly what's being proposed here isn't clear, but the broader trajectory of Solomon Islands, and in particular its trajectory when it comes to freedom of the press, is certainly worrying to those who monitor these things closely, and it's most importantly very worrying to journalists inside Solomon Islands who fear that the country is on a very, very worrying path.
Stephen, thanks.